Today, I want to talk about solitude. We all know this feeling. You've tried everything, reaching out, staying busy, smiling through it. But the loneliness hasn't gone away. Life moves faster now, more fragmented, more isolated. Technology promised to bring people closer, but instead, it often creates a quiet distance. It didn't arrive as an enemy, but as a replacement. Instead of walking next door to chat with a neighbor, you send a text. Instead of meeting a friend for coffee, you comment on their latest post. These small changes felt convenient at first, but over time, they took something deep. A like, a message, no matter how frequent, can never replace the warmth of someone truly being there with you. The neighborhoods where everyone knew each other are quieter now. The gatherings and shared rituals that once united communities have grown fewer. These shifts aren't just external. They've shaped how we interact, trust, and open ourselves to others. There was a time when connection felt natural. Neighbors would wave as they passed by. Families gathered around the table each week, and a sense of belonging seemed woven into daily life. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Today, that sense of connection feels harder to hold on to. You wake up, check your phone, go about your day, but something is missing, isn't it? There's a kind of loneliness that doesn't come from being alone. It comes from being surrounded by people, but still feeling invisible. It comes from conversations that lack meaning, relationships that feel shallow, or the quiet realization that the world you once knew doesn't connect with you anymore. If that resonates, know this. You're not alone in feeling this way, but there are reasons behind it. But loneliness isn't just about the world outside. It's about the barriers we create inside ourselves. Whether it's fear of rejection, old wounds from past relationships, or the belief that no one will truly understand, these patterns hold us back in ways we may not realize. You're not alone because something is wrong with you. You're alone because modern life makes connection harder, and understanding that is the first step toward change. Modern life has made loneliness a quiet epidemic. Our days are filled with tasks, but not with meaning. Technology was supposed to bring us closer, yet it often leaves us feeling more distant. You scroll through smiling faces, celebrations, and family gatherings online. But instead of feeling included, it's like watching a movie of someone else's life. Beautiful, but not yours. What changed? Society shifted. People moved away from small towns and close-knit communities to bigger cities and sprawling suburbs. Work hours stretched longer, and weekends became another space for catching up on responsibilities instead of connecting with loved ones. The neighborhoods that once felt like extensions of your family grew quieter. The gatherings that made you feel part of something bigger became fewer and farther between. But the truth is, it's not just the world around you that's changed. It's the beliefs you've been taught to carry. Don't depend on anyone, they say. Be strong. Be independent, handle it yourself. At some point, you may have started to believe that asking for support is weakness, that leaning on others makes you a burden. Those thoughts build walls, not to protect you, but to keep you apart. This isn't your fault. The world teaches us to stay busy, to focus on progress, to find happiness in achievements, but none of that fills the ache for connection. And that's why you're alone, not because something is wrong with you, but because the spaces where connection used to thrive have grown smaller. Loneliness doesn't just happen. It's shaped by the world, by technology, and by the beliefs we carry without question. But here's the good news. The forces that created loneliness can also be unlearned. And when you begin to see the invisible walls that surround you, you'll realize they aren't as unbreakable as they seem. Loneliness often feels like it's caused by the world around you, but so much of it comes from within. Your mind, without you even realizing it, can be your greatest obstacle to connection. It whispers doubts, plays tricks, and builds walls where bridges should be. It might start small, a hesitation before reaching out to someone, a thought like, they probably don't have time for me. Maybe you've told yourself, I'll only be a burden, or they wouldn't really understand me anyway. Over time, these thoughts don't just come and go, they settle in. They become beliefs, shaping how you see yourself and the relationships you allow yourself to have. Some of this comes from old wounds. Think back. Can you remember a time when you trusted someone only to feel hurt or let down? Maybe it was a rejection from a friend, a relationship that ended, or even silence from someone you thought cared. These experiences leave marks, and your mind, trying to protect you, learns a dangerous lesson. Connection equals risk. It's safer, it says, to keep your distance. But that safety comes at a cost. The walls you build to protect yourself from pain also keep out the love, support, and understanding you crave. You might even start believing the stories your mind tells you about who you are. I'm not interesting enough, I don't fit in, or people will just leave anyway. These stories aren't truths. They're echoes of moments that hurt you, yet they hold so much power, shaping how you approach every interaction. Fear is a constant companion in this cycle. The fear of rejection, of opening up only to be met with indifference, can feel overwhelming. Maybe you've told yourself it's better not to try. At least this way, you think, I won't get hurt. But what often happens is that avoiding the risk only deepens the isolation. The fear grows stronger, the walls higher, and the loneliness more profound. And then there's perfectionism, a quieter but equally powerful force. You might think, I'll reach out when I have something interesting to say, or I'll join that group when I feel more confident. But waiting for the perfect moment keeps you stuck. The truth is, connection doesn't require perfection. It just requires showing up as you are, flaws and all. Your mind also has a way of interpreting situations in ways that reinforce your loneliness. A friend doesn't return a call right away, and suddenly you're thinking, they don't care about me. You see others laughing in a group and think, I'd never fit in there. These thoughts feel real, but they're not the full story. People are busy, distracted, and dealing with their own struggles. But when you're lonely, it's easy to assume the worst. That you're being deliberately left out, that you don't matter. Breaking free from this mental cycle starts with awareness. You have to catch these thoughts as they happen and question them. Is it true that nobody cares about you? Or is it just that you haven't reached out in a while? Is it true that you're uninteresting? Or are you judging yourself by impossible standards? It's also about being kind to yourself. Imagine a close friend came to you and said, I feel like I'm not enough. Would you agree with them? Or would you remind them of their worth, of all the ways they matter? Now think about how often you say those same unkind things to yourself. Learning to speak to yourself with the same compassion you'd show a friend can start to chip away at the walls your mind has built. Loneliness doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're human. And while the mind can be a barrier, it can also be a tool. By challenging the beliefs that keep you isolated and taking small steps toward connection, you begin to rewrite the story your mind has been telling you. Because the truth is, you're not alone because no one cares. You're alone because you've learned to believe you should be. And now, you can unlearn that belief. Not all relationships ease loneliness. Some can amplify it, making the ache feel sharper and the void deeper. Have you ever found yourself sitting with someone, maybe a friend, a partner, or even family, and feeling more alone than if you were by yourself? It's a quiet kind of pain, and it leaves you wondering, why does this happen? One reason is that some relationships exist only on the surface. These are the connections that might look fine from the outside but lack depth where it truly matters. Perhaps you've experienced it, a conversation that never goes beyond small talk, a relationship where your needs are met with indifference, or time spent with someone who seems more interested in their phone than in you. These interactions can leave you feeling unseen, even when someone is physically right there. Toxic relationships are another trap. You might stay in a relationship that drains you because it feels safer than being alone. Maybe it's a friend who criticizes you under the guise of helping you improve, or a family member whose support comes with strings attached. These relationships take more than they give, but walking away feels impossible because the alternative, complete isolation, seems even scarier. Have you ever clung to a connection out of fear? It's a common reaction. The mind tells you something is better than nothing, but that something can often make the loneliness worse. The truth is, being surrounded by the wrong people can leave you feeling emptier than being by yourself ever could. Even in healthy relationships, loneliness can take root. You might have kind, caring people in your life, yet still feel a gap. Why? Because emotional intimacy is more than just being present. It's about being truly understood. Maybe you've tried to share your feelings, but were met with awkward silence. Or maybe someone you love offered solutions when all you needed was for them to listen. These moments, though small, can create a distance that grows over time. Fear of vulnerability also plays a role. To build genuine relationships, you need to open up, to let others see the parts of you that feel unworthy or imperfect. But if you've been hurt before, that kind of honesty can feel like a risk you're not willing to take. You might hold back, share only the parts of yourself you think are safe, and keep the rest hidden. And while this might protect you from rejection, it also keeps true connection out of reach. Another subtle but powerful force is the expectation we place on relationships. Have you ever felt disappointed when someone didn't meet your unspoken needs? It's easy to expect others to fill the void inside you, to believe that if they loved you enough, you wouldn't feel alone. But no one person can carry that weight. Loneliness isn't something another person can fix for you. It's something you have to face and understand within yourself first. And then there's the issue of misaligned values. Relationships thrive when they're built on shared understanding, trust, and respect. But sometimes, we hold on to connections that no longer align with who we are. It might be an old friend whose negativity drains you, or a relationship that stayed out of habit, rather than mutual care. These relationships can make you question your worth, reinforcing feelings of loneliness instead of easing them. Breaking free from this cycle starts with recognizing what you truly need from the people in your life. Are you looking for connection, understanding, or just someone to fill the silence? And just as importantly, are the relationships you have offering that? If not, it might be time to reevaluate, not because you're unlovable, but because you deserve relationships that uplift and nurture you. Loneliness within relationships is one of the hardest feelings to confront. It's not about the number of people in your life, but the depth of the connections you share. By choosing relationships that allow for vulnerability, respect, and mutual care, you can begin to create the bonds that truly ease loneliness. The truth is, being alone isn't the same as feeling lonely, and being with others doesn't always mean feeling connected. Recognizing the difference is the first step to finding the relationships that will finally bring you peace. Loneliness often feels like a punishment, but what if it's something else? What if it's a message, a quiet reminder from within, asking you to pay attention to the relationship you have with yourself? So many of the reasons we feel alone are tied to how we see ourselves. The way you treat yourself, think about yourself, and value yourself shapes every connection you have with others. It's easy to overlook this. When loneliness strikes, the instinct is to look outward, to blame the lack of people around you or the quality of your relationships. But sometimes, The source of the emptiness isn't external. It's the distance you've created with yourself. Have you ever stopped to ask, how do I treat myself in my loneliest moments? For many, the answer is harsh. You might criticize yourself for not being more likable or wonder what's wrong with you. These thoughts aren't kind. They're wounds you keep reopening. They come from years of internalizing rejection, comparing yourself to others, or believing you're not enough. Over time, this self-talk becomes a habit, and without realizing it, you start treating yourself as an outsider in your own life. When was the last time you truly enjoyed your own company? Solitude doesn't have to be something you dread. It can be a space for reflection, growth, and healing. But first, you have to change the way you see it. Instead of seeing time alone as proof of your loneliness, what if you saw it as a gift? A chance to reconnect with who you are. Rebuilding this connection with yourself starts with compassion. Think about how you'd comfort a close friend who was struggling. You wouldn't tell them they're not good enough or that they should have everything figured out by now. So why say these things to yourself? Learning to replace self-criticism with understanding is one of the most important steps toward healing loneliness. There's also power in rediscovering the things that bring you joy, not for anyone else, but for you. What activities make you feel alive? What hobbies or passions have you set aside over the years? Sometimes, loneliness is a call to return to the things that make you feel whole, to remind yourself of what you love and what makes you unique. But it's not just about finding distractions, it's about creating a deeper sense of self-worth. When you truly value yourself, you stop relying on others to fill the void. You start to see relationships as something to share your life with, not as the source of your happiness. This shift is powerful. It turns loneliness from a weight into an opportunity for growth. Past wounds often play a role in this process. If you've been hurt before, whether by rejection, betrayal, or loss, it's natural to build walls to protect yourself. But those walls don't just keep pain out, they also keep connection out. Healing doesn't mean forgetting what happened. It means learning to let go of the belief that those experiences define you. Have you ever thought about the way you speak to yourself? Imagine for a moment that you're carrying on a conversation with someone who matters deeply to you. Would you use the same words, the same tone that you use when you talk to yourself? If the answer is no, it's time to rewrite that inner dialogue. Loneliness can feel overwhelming, but it's also a chance to learn more about who you are and what you need. It's an opportunity to listen to the parts of yourself that have been ignored or silenced. What are they trying to tell you? What dreams or desires have you been too afraid to pursue? These questions, though difficult, are the keys to reconnecting with yourself. You are not alone because you are unworthy. You are alone because life has pulled you away from your own heart. By rediscovering yourself, your values, your strengths, your passions, you begin to close the distance within. And as you do, you'll find it easier to connect with others in ways that feel real and fulfilling. Solitude isn't something to fear. It's a chance to rebuild the most important relationship you'll ever have, the one with yourself. Loneliness may feel like a shadow that follows you everywhere, but it doesn't have to stay. The path back to connection isn't about suddenly finding the perfect friend or rekindling every old relationship. It's about small, intentional steps that open the door to something deeper. The first step is often the hardest: reaching out. When you've been lonely for a long time, the idea of putting yourself out there can feel overwhelming. You might think, what if they don't care? Or, what if I get rejected? But connection begins with effort, no matter how small. A simple text, a genuine smile, or even a short conversation can break the cycle of isolation. These small acts may feel insignificant, but they remind you and others that you're here, ready to connect. As you begin to reconnect, think about the quality of your relationships. It's easy to fill your time with acquaintances or surface-level interactions, but true connection comes from depth. Ask yourself, who in your life makes you feel seen? Who listens without judgment? Who values you for who you are? These are the relationships worth nurturing. Building meaningful relationships also requires vulnerability. This can be one of the scariest parts of the journey. Letting someone see your fears, your struggles, or the parts of you that feel unworthy takes courage. But vulnerability is where trust and intimacy grow. It's what transforms a casual connection into a bond that truly matters. Sometimes, the path to connection means stepping outside your comfort zone. Loneliness often makes you retreat, but healing comes from movement, trying something new, joining a group, or pursuing a shared interest. These experiences might feel unfamiliar at first, but they create opportunities to meet people who share your values and passions. Another way to reconnect is by shifting your focus outward. Loneliness can make you feel trapped in your own thoughts, but acts of kindness can break that cycle. Helping someone else, even in small ways, reminds you of your place in the world. It creates moments of connection that aren't just about you. They're about being part of something bigger. Be patient with yourself. Connection doesn't happen overnight. There will be moments when the loneliness feels heavier than the progress, but that doesn't mean you're failing. Every small effort, every step forward, is proof that you're moving toward the life you deserve. Most importantly, remember that the relationship you have with yourself is the foundation for all others. When you treat yourself with kindness and compassion, you naturally attract connections that reflect that same energy. Self-respect isn't just about confidence. It's about showing the world that you're worthy of love and belonging, just as you are. Loneliness may have kept you in the dark, but the way back to connection starts with light. Small, steady moments of openness, trust, and courage. And with every step you take, the shadow grows smaller, replaced by the warmth of relationships that feel real and fulfilling. You are not alone because you're unworthy. You're alone because life made connection harder. And now you have the chance to build it back, one step at a time. There's a quiet truth about loneliness that's hard to face. It thrives in the spaces where we've stopped looking for connection. It grows in the routines that keep us distant, in the thoughts that tell us we don't belong, and in the moments when we doubt our own worth. But here's the thing. Loneliness doesn't have to stay. The life you're living now wasn't built to nurture connection. Modern society has made it easier to drift apart. Busier schedules, fleeting interactions, and a culture that often celebrates self-reliance over shared experiences. These forces pull us away from each other, leaving us wondering why the ache of being alone feels so persistent. But even more powerful than what's outside you is what's within. The stories you tell yourself, the ones that say you're not enough or that you'll be rejected, have shaped how you see the world. Those stories can keep you stuck in patterns of isolation, even when connection is closer than you think. Loneliness also reveals something profound. It shows you what you truly need. It's a signal that the life you're living isn't meeting the deeper parts of who you are. It's not a weakness. It's a message, a reminder that you're built for connection, that you deserve relationships that feel real, and that it's never too late to seek them. The path forward isn't about fixing yourself or erasing the past. It's about understanding the walls you've built and choosing, one small moment at a time, to open a door instead. It's reaching out to a friend, joining a group that inspires you, or simply being kind to yourself in moments of doubt. You are not alone because you've failed. You are alone because the forces around and within you made connection harder than it should be. But you don't have to stay here. With every step you take, toward yourself, toward others, toward the life you want, the shadow of loneliness begins to lift. And in its place, you'll find something far greater, the connection you've been seeking all along. The next time loneliness sits beside you, don't see it as an enemy. See it as a teacher, guiding you toward a fuller, richer life. You're not alone in feeling lonely. And as you take these steps, you'll come to realize something profound. The connection you're seeking starts with you. If this resonates with you, take the first step toward connection. Like, comment, or share your thoughts below. Let's start a conversation that reminds us all, we're never truly alone.